Top of the Pops, oddly enough at that time, was a very kind of sexual show. You know, the dancers' legs.
Welcome to WatchMojo UK, and today we're counting down our picks for the 20 most divisive and outrageous TV shows broadcast on the BBC.
Nationalists, whatever, believe that the Falklands are Argentinian, they don't like the British, and they're in the hotel.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Number 20. The One Show. What if ITV's This Morning was on in the evening and just as banal? That's what The One Show has been since its inception, but despite this family-friendly mandate, it's courted controversy many times.
Do you not think it's a bit impolite, though, as a word these days?
I think it has changed since it was merely on the jam jars.
Yes, so it has, and that's why it's not on the jam jars, because we've moved on.
It's been the host of many commentators making controversial statements, including Jeremy Clarkson and Carroll Thatcher, but the most contentious incident was Jordan Shelley's appearance on the show.
Move.
Shelley is a dog trainer who employed some, shall we say, unique methods, which were condemned by the public and animal welfare groups as being aggressive and harmful. Even Alex Jones couldn't keep it to herself, telling Shelley after the segment that she too thought it was aggressive.
Now, some people out there might argue that some of your techniques might have been a little aggressive. What would you say to those people?
Well, I agree with all different techniques of dog training.
Number 19. Mrs. Brown's Boys.
What's wrong with you, Grandad?
Haven't slept for 3 days.
Aside from the general controversy over the BBC's constant renewal of Mrs. Brown's Boys, despite it being totally rubbish to some people, the show has gotten into trouble many times. In recent memory, one incident led to production being temporarily paused on the 2024 Christmas special. It was leaked to the press that star Brendan O'Carroll had made an offensive joke and implied, in his words, a racial slur.
Heading out on the big date, love?
It's not a big date, Mummy. It's just a quiet drink.
Quiet drink? That's what all men say. They think vodka's a lubricant to get your knickers off easy.
We won't repeat it here, but the production staff and O'Carroll's co-stars were said to have been shocked. The entire thing was then investigated by the BBC, with O'Carroll made to publicly apologise. Unfortunately, the Christmas special of Mrs. Brown's Boys did not get cancelled.
I say to the missus, that's a banana, not a willy. It won't get bigger if you squeeze it.
Number 18. BBC Breakfast.
I can't see why we still have to treat racism as though it's a legitimate opinion.
You wouldn't have thought that BBC Breakfast would cause any trouble, but like The One Show, sometimes the presenters make mistakes that land them in hot water publicly. In 2019, complaints were made against stalwart presenter Naga Munchetty after she made comments about Donald Trump on air, criticizing his use of language, telling people to go back home.
And every time I have been told, as a woman of colour, to go home, go back to where I came from, that was embedded in racism.
An investigation was launched about whether this had broken impartiality guidelines, only for the BBC itself to wind up with egg on its face when it turned out that co-host Dan Walker had also been complained about. Walker had made similar comments, but only Munchetty was investigated and ruled against.
In this instance, I don't think Naga's words were sufficient to merit a partial uphold of the complaint around the comments she made.
In the end, the Director General had to get involved and overturn the ruling. Number 17. The Secret World of Lewis Carroll.
For years, the relationship between Carroll and Alice Liddell has been the subject of speculation.
Originally commissioned to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Alice in Wonderland being published, this BBC production eventually turned into rather an outrageous hit piece on Lewis Carroll, accusing him of taking lewd photographs of a young girl. It was suggested by the BBC that the picture was taken by Carroll, real name Charles Dodgson, and that it was of Alice Liddell's sister. Alice Liddell being who is often believed to have been the inspiration behind Alice in the book.
That is quite disturbing, isn't it? That's a little girl in a very adult pose.
But the BBC's evidence was disputed with many experts, who weren't reconsulted for the documentary, saying that the photograph appeared in the 1970s and there was no proof that Carroll was the one who took it, or even who it was a picture of.
Carroll was more than a keen photographer. He was a pioneer of a new art form.
Number 16, Strictly Come Dancing.
Every single day there seems to be a bit of an addition to the story.
What should have been the glitzy 20th anniversary of Strictly in 2024 was marred with scandal, as celebrity after celebrity came out to discuss their unpleasant experiences on the show. Chief among them was Amanda Abington, who'd left the show the previous year. She made allegations against Giovanni Panice.
His past dance partners were getting in touch with you and saying what?
I'm so sorry.
Panice left, but the allegations stuck, with yet more hyper-competitive professional dancers being caught up in it. In the aftermath, the BBC has implemented a new chaperone system for training, with celebrities always accompanied and observed to make sure no more misconduct is going on.
What the BBC are now actually discussing is to have chaperones in the training room now, which I actually personally think is a good idea.
Investigations continue, with former stars still demanding their training footage from the BBC to prove what went on. Number 15, Question Time.
We will negotiate a credible leave deal with the European Union. Let me finish, please. I'm trying to answer the gentleman's question.
Balance is extremely important to the BBC, even more so when its flagship political debate show is involved. But Question Time has come under close scrutiny over the decades.
And it's that difference, by the way, the fact that the BNP defines itself on race, which distinguishes it from every other political party I can think of.
In one infamous episode, the BNP was deemed a worthy enough political party that its leader, Nick Griffin, was actually invited on the show in 2009. This was despite the BNP actually getting a lower share of the vote in the most recent European Parliament elections than the Greens, and interestingly, UKIP, who weren't invited onto Question Time.
Finally, my father was in the RAF during the Second World War, while Mr. Straw's father was in prison for refusing to fight Adolf Hitler. Sorry.
Years later, and another scandal struck the show when it was accused of editing out audience laughter when somebody asked Boris Johnson whether it was difficult for him to be honest during a leaders' debate in 2019.
How important is it for someone in your position of power to always tell the truth?
I think it's absolutely vital.
Number 14, A Year with the Queen.
With unparalleled access, it's the royal family as you've never seen them before. Up close and intimate.
From doing a hit piece on Lewis Carroll to making the far more outrageous choice to publicly smear the Queen. Through selective editing, the trailer for this landmark documentary about the Queen and other senior royals broadcast in 2007 made Her Majesty look like she'd gotten irate and stormed out of an interview.
I think it will look better without the crown. Less dressy, because the garter robe is so extraordinary. Just dress me. What do you think this is? I'm not changing anything. I've got enough dressing like this. Thank you very much.
This is the kind of thing that the palace wouldn't like even if it had happened, but of course it didn't. The program's editors had played clips in the wrong order to make it look like she'd thrown a tantrum. They were forced to apologize, and there were multiple resignations, with the BBC accused of genuinely attempting to defame the Queen.
You have to keep your head very still.
Yes. And you can't look down to read the speech, you have to take the speech up. Because if you did, your neck would break.
Number 13, What Not to Wear.
Please, Susanna, I need your help.
God, how revolting.
Practically every makeover show from the 2000s is extremely dated now. Though What Not to Wear definitely isn't on the level of shows from rival channels like Super Size vs Super Skinny or 10 Years Younger.
How insecure are you as a person?
More than you would imagine.
Yeah.
It made Trini and Susanna household names, but all they were doing was insulting women in the nastiest way possible. The cruel-to-be-kind attitude prevailed in the noughties, but it's just disturbing to watch the way they talk about women on the show. particularly when the women aren't in the room with them.
Have you had sex?
Yeah, that's a personal question though.
Are you gay?
No.
You're not gay?
No.
Modern makeover shows have been all about building up people's confidence and self-esteem, rather than tearing them to shreds in exchange for a new wardrobe.
She dresses in such an overt way.
What
With
does
those
she
kind of
wear?
like sparkly underwear with kind of netting over the top, and she looks like a total slut.
Number 12, Monty Python's Flying Circus.
I see. Haven't you got anything a bit more modern, you know, like a job on the buses or digging the underground?
Oh, no, we only have Tudor jobs.
Though it's always been massively popular and remains one of the greatest sketch shows of all time, it's always pushed the envelope and as such got some negative press during its original run. Some episodes were actually censored to the extent that the sketches were temporarily lost, including an episode from Series 2 where a sketch about eating dead bodies was retroactively removed because apparently audiences were disturbed.
Dirty books, please. Right. Really, sir. Sorry about the Tudor bit, but you can't be too careful, you know?
There was another sketch ultimately cut from the show called Wee Wee Wine Tasting. That got the boot because John Cleese didn't think it was funny.
The next sketch follows after some silly noises.
It's believed that he betrayed his fellow Pythons and got the BBC to remove the sketch from the final cut. Number 11, Country File.
We're weighing them, we're hoping to get them to around 44 kilos so that we can reach around 70 to 75 pounds per lamb.
You wouldn't have thought that a show about gardening, farming, and the countryside would get so many complaints, but Country File is a magnet for them. Lately, it's been weighing in on certain issues, including discussing the lack of NHS dentists in rural areas and the UK's ongoing water pollution problems, both of which do affect farmers.
So this lamb is obviously too small, he's too light, he's a bit bony. He might have been born a little bit later, could have been a triplet.
Elsewhere though, and people had more baffling complaints, like saying the show should have warned them before airing a segment that showed a bull's testicles being weighed. Then there are the constant complaints when episodes cover lambing, with viewers taking to the internet to express their disapproval of lamb meat being eaten. Fair enough, but why were those people watching Country File in the first place?
These rams have got so much work to do. They'll be the dads of all of the lambs that these ewes are now carrying that will be born in the spring.
Number 10, Till Death Us Do Part.
You bloody scouse ponce! Yeah. I want to call you up for the army, mate, and bung you down a mine.
What was so outrageous about classic sitcom Till Death Us Do Part that got constant negative attention? Was it audiences not understanding that Alf Garnett is a caricature whose offensive views were actually the butt of the joke? Well, yes. Though it did make some poor choices where Spike Milligan was concerned.
What is wrong with the set?
We can't get a photo, mate.
But there was one person out there who had a bone to pick with it for another reason, who was outraged not by the satire, but by the bad language and Garnett's frequent use of the immensely offensive swear word, bloody.
I bet you never thought when you bought the set you will have to call a native out of the jungle to repair it for you, eh?
That person was, of course, Mary Whitehouse, whose name you'll be hearing again soon. The joke's on her though, she was eventually mocked on the show when Garnett read her book.
A-L. You shut your face!
Number 9, Way to Go.
I'm not a vet, I'm a vet's receptionist. Well, so you don't save animals? No, I answer phones.
You can make a sitcom out of anything, but should you? Perhaps not if Way to Go is anything to go by. It was a critical and commercial failure for the BBC in 2013, centering on 3 men running an assisted dying business. Yes, running an illegal euthanasia company for profit, comedy doesn't get much darker than this.
I want you to kill me.
You want me to build you a suicide machine? Keep it down. This is Looney Tunes.
It says a lot that the BBC has tried to scrub all existence of this show from the internet, with only a trailer seeming to survive.
I'll be dead, and you're the bloke who made it all possible. That must make you feel good.
Over a decade later, and assisted dying remains an extremely serious issue, so it's no wonder that MPs weighed in at the time to deride the BBC for commissioning this. Number 8, Doctor Who. No show is on TV for as long as Doctor Who without causing an uproar, though most of the time that uproar is that people think it's gone down the drain and the scripts are no good anymore. Sometimes though it gets in trouble for other things, like using excessive violence. There was one memorable incident during the 4th Doctor's run where an episode cliffhanger made it look like the Doctor had drowned, which Mary Whitehouse drew specific attention to when she made her usual complaints.
Finished, Doctor. You're finished.
But then we get to the 6th Doctor, who also had a propensity for violence, at one point leaving someone to die in an acid bath and quipping on his way out.
Forgive me if I don't join you.
Number 7. Ghostwatch.
The program you're about to watch is a unique live investigation of the supernatural. It contains material which some viewers may find to be disturbing.
In the early 90s, history was made when the BBC produced a fake ghost hunting show, intended as a piece of drama, but misinterpreted by the viewers who tuned in after the opening disclaimer. Staged as a paranormal investigation of an unassuming house in the vein of the real-life Enfield poltergeist case, things soon got too supernatural for viewers at home when demons emerged and the studio was invaded.
Mom! Mom! Mom, it's back! It's back! Mom! 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 Help me! Help me! Don't touch me!
It ended with Sarah Green from Blue Peter apparently left for dead in a cellar, and Michael Parkinson possessed on camera. The BBC was inundated with phone calls from horrified viewers who thought it really was live, and it's never been repeated on British TV, even to mark its many anniversaries.
Just in the last few minutes, a young lady very distressed in response to something that we showed earlier on, and she's hung up before we've had a chance to talk to her. So,
Number 6. Panorama.
Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
Despite being one of the most prestigious journalistic programs in the world, Panorama has also courted controversy many times. Its most outrageous episode is, by far, the interview with Princess Diana, obtained via fraud.
25 years on, Diana's brother Earl Spencer wants an apology. He introduced Martin Bashir to his sister in 1995, but says Bashir showed him faked evidence.
But that's not the only time it's released an investigation that's caused trouble. There was another, far more dangerous incident when they were filming undercover with a university trip in North Korea, not letting the students or organizers know who they were.
North Korea's Supreme Commander Kim Jong-un is threatening thermonuclear war against the United States.
Earlier than both these incidents, it was scrutinized for its alleged political bias after making a program implying that far-right pressure groups were influencing Margaret Thatcher's cabinets. Some ministers sued the BBC for libel over this and won.
So, welcome to the real North Korea.
Number 5. Blue Peter.
Check out this little fella. This is our brand new kitten, Cookie. He's only 13 weeks old.
Is it the most wholesome and inoffensive children's show in the world? Perhaps not, given that it's been plagued by tabloid exposés for decades. The most shocking Blue Peter controversies are, undoubtedly, Richard Bacon getting sacked and the cat naming scandal, the latter of which came after a different public voting scandal that saw the BBC fined by Ofcom for the first time ever.
That was wrong, and so today we'd like to say that we're sorry.
Yep, we would.
Bacon, on the other hand, remains the only presenter to have his contract terminated mid-series after the News of the World released a story about him taking illegal substances, leading to an on-air apology from Lorraine Hegacy, head of children's programs at the BBC.
One of the Sunday newspapers reported that Richard Bacon, a Blue Peter presenter, had taken an illegal drug. Richard admits that he has done this and that he very much regrets it.
Number 4. Little Britain.
Oh goody, so I'm finally gonna meet the woman who destroyed our marriage. As beautiful as they say.
Undoubtedly the most polarizing sketch show of the 21st century so far, Little Britain has been sparking debates in the UK since it first made the leap from radio to television. Starring Matt Lucas and David Walliams as various caricatures of British life, it was derided for punching down from the very start, with most of its jokes aimed at the working class, the disabled, and other minorities.
After a productive morning sending bullying text messages to younger children, Vicky and her gang are returning to their estate.
Yes, though some people try to have rose-tinted glasses about it now, there was plenty of criticism for Little Britain even during the height of its popularity. In recent years, Walliams and Lucas have publicly apologized for playing characters of other races, and many of those scenes have been edited out of the episodes currently on iPlayer.
So you want to fly to Toronto on the 14th?
Yes.
Computer says no.
Number 3, Top Gear.
Back on the move, they were now heading for the much larger town of Rio Grande, where they were told a mob in some 300 cars was waiting.
From causing international incidents to life-threatening injuries, Top Gear has done it all. For a while, its most shocking moment was during the Patagonia specials, where the entire production crew was run out of Argentina. This was due to the number plate on Clarkson's Porsche, H982FKL, being misinterpreted as a reference to the Falklands War, though it was actually an unfortunate coincidence.
But after many hours of struggle, our team made it across.
But there was also Richard Hammond's near-fatal crash in a vampire dragster, and then the original 3 leaving after Clarkson's contract was unrenewed when he punched a producer. Years later, and we thought the show had settled into a new rhythm, only for Freddie Flintoff to have another potentially lethal crash, which has led to the show being rested indefinitely.
It was all over quite quickly, so do it again in slow motion. You can see the moment when the tyre goes. It's still doing 288 miles an hour here.
Number 2, The Late Late Breakfast Show. Thankfully, Richard Hammond and Freddie Flintoff have survived their numerous horror crashes on Top Gear. But sadly, the same cannot be said for The Late Late Breakfast Show, an evening show fronted by Noel Edmonds in the 80s.
He's going very, very fast indeed. Very fast.
The show became notorious for its dangerous stunts, but health and safety was extremely lax, even by the standards of the time. After one horror car accident, the show didn't seem to have learnt its lesson because a participant, Michael Lush, later died while filming a stunt.
Well, obviously we'll keep you posted as to exactly what happened with that attempt. It certainly looked remarkably frightening. From the pictures I can see, they're sorting him out. We'll keep you posted as to what happens.
He was attempting to bungee jump when his carabiner came loose, plunging 120 feet to his death. The BBC was ultimately prosecuted for breaching health and safety rules.
The BBC has decided to cancel this and all further editions of the programme.
Number 1, Jim'll Fix It.
Do shake hands with Mr. Chewbacca. Sit back up there.
For almost 2 decades, Jimmy Savile made children's wishes come true on television while behaving with inhuman cruelty behind the scenes. Savile actually wasn't the first choice to present the show, but they went with him as he'd already been doing Top of the Pops.
But was there a groupie culture around sex in the dressing room and taking these girls home after the show and all of that kind of thing as well?
Even during the height of his popularity though, and a lot of people could tell that there was something wrong with Savile, with children disturbed to be around him. Producers involved deny knowing that anything untoward was going on with Savile and his young guests. But this is hard to believe considering that even during his life, Savile was investigated by police.
And were you aware as an executive later on of rumours around Jimmy Savile?
Fleetingly.
For whatever reason, the plot didn't have the evidence to charge him, and he got away with it.
Do you like it down here on Earth?
What's he saying?
He senses an evil presence.
He senses an evil presence?
Yes.
Who could that be?
Let us know in those comments which of these shows deserve the controversy and which don't.
It's immediately clear we've come to North Korea at an interesting time.